The Dodgers are World Series champs, and it doesn't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. What are the chances that they go back to back? My name is Dean Frank, and this is Dean Sports Report, where I bring insider chats with sports media professionals all over the industry. Today, I got a great episode for y'all. Ryan Burschinger, producer at Fox Sports Radio, and also covers the Dodgers on the Sick Podcast Network. Bursch, thanks for hopping on, man. It's great to reconnect.
Oh, absolutely, Dean. Thanks so much for having me. This is a great time to get to talk about this team, and it's great to see you as well. It's been a while since you've got to hang out with us at Fox Sports Radio, so really happy to do this. Thanks, man.
No, awesome. I can't even imagine just, I guess, starting off the bat, like, how was it covering this team during the crazy World Series run last year? I mean, for me, it was tough not being back in LA, but it felt like the perfect script, beating the Yankees, the Freddie Freeman walk-off home run, just everything was awesome. So how was it being there in the studio?
It was incredible. Like there's no other way to beat around it. That playoff run was just so much fun. And what's crazy too is that it started out looking really bleak. That division series, they go down 2-1 to the Padres, and it looked like, oh, damn it, we're doing this again. For the third straight year, we're going to lose to an NL West opponent in the first round, which is just so infuriating. And then the Padres never scored a run since then. We're still now in spring training. They've put up some runs, but they went over 27 innings or whatever. And I mean, you kind of, in order to win a title, you do have to have things break your way, and the Dodgers definitely had some things break their way in every series throughout the postseason. Of course, we don't need to shine the full light on what happened in Game 5 with the Yankees, but at the same time, you have to have an insane amount of talent to put yourself in the position to be able to have opportunities to have those breaks go your way. And the Dodgers are more talented than anyone. Despite having an incredibly banged up starting rotation, they were able to go out there and compete on the mound every single day. The bullpen was fantastic. But overall, yeah, just the mood of the city and the mood of the fans watching that, to be able to cover that through the podcast. We did a post-game show after every game, and what an unbelievable ride. And it's like, it's hard to, I don't want to say it's hard to talk about the team now, but I was thinking about this, like, if you were to ask sort of what's it like coming into this season as a Dodger fan, it's hard to give an answer that, like, anyone who's not a Dodger fan would be satisfied with. Because quite frankly, it's either you tell the truth and say it's amazing. It is just phenomenal to be a Dodger fan right now, which nobody outside of Dodger fans really wants to hear about. But then on the flip side, if I got like super technical and like pointed out some of the flaws with the team coming into spring training, people would be like, what the hell's wrong with you? There's no reason to complain about anything as a Dodger fan right now, which is 100% accurate. There's really no reason to complain about anything. And it's incredible. I'm so excited for the season. The fact that they were able to add the way that they did in the offseason makes it even more exciting. It's the best time ever to be a fan of this team. And, I've been invested in this team my entire life. So it's just really cool to watch it pay out at the level that it's paying off at, and to be able to do it while also actually working in sports media and being around people who are talking about it on a daily basis, and to now have the satisfaction of knowing they can't say crap anymore. Like, this team is world champions. You got nothing on us. So overall, it is just great. It's a great time, Dean.
No, it's awesome. That's what we do. That's what we do it all for, And like, for
Yeah.
me, it's definitely tougher because I'm out here in Colorado. I just had Jovan Buha, Lakers reporter, on the
Nice.
pod, and we're
Nice.
talking about like the Nuggets Lakers playoff series, and I have roommates rooting for the Nuggets, and I had a bunch of friends rooting for the Yankees. So it's tough not being around like the LA fan base crowd, but at the same time, that's what you do it for. Like, I'm the one that's happy while they're pissed off. So, couldn't have written up any better. And I mean, yeah, I don't want to talk about that Dodger team too much because we can go all day, but I know the talent we had was going to figure it out. Like, we were going to get the ring, but thank you, Aaron Judge, for missing that ball. Thank you, Garrett Cole, for not running to first base. Like, we definitely, in that last game, man, that was roller coaster of emotions, but it all planned out perfectly. So I guess, yeah, we talked a little bit about spring training, and we kind of look at, what happened this offseason. We definitely lost a couple key guys in Bueller, Flaherty, Gavin Lux. But at the same time, it feels like we might have gotten even better. Picking up Blake Snell, two-time Cy Young Award winner, re-signed Teoscar Hernandez, and then not even to mention signing Roki Sasaki, the number one prospect in the MLB, along with keeping our top our lineup really with Shohei, Mookie, Freddie Freeman, and the rest of the guys. There hasn't been a team to repeat a World Series championship since the 2000 Yankees. What do you think the chances are that this is the year that the Dodgers go back to back?
Honestly, the chances are high. Truly, I think they have as good of a chance as any team has ever had at actually repeating. We know that in baseball, it is incredibly difficult to repeat. As you said, not since 2000 has that happened. And that was a generationally talented team. This is also a generationally talented team, and they are only getting better. As you mentioned, with the acquisitions they had in the offseason, it's incredible because it's all house money. I didn't expect Blake Snell at all. And I figured they would sign Sasaki and re-sign Teoscar, and like that was it. But to then take Blake Snell and throw him on top of that rotation, it's like, what in the world? Like, this is incredible. And of course, they're in essence also going to add Shohei Ohtani to that rotation. They're getting back Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin, who are going to hopefully pitch a decent amount of innings this season, whether that be in starting or relief. This
Not
is a
to
better
mention,
team.
sorry to cut you off,
Go
but
ahead.
not to mention my guy Clayton Kershaw. Don't forget about him. I mean, coming back
Yes.
for probably one last year now, but it's awesome to see him on the rotation. But yeah, like you mentioned, probably the best rotation in baseball if we can stay healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is not often that a team wins a World Series after having an incredibly dominant season and then improves in the offseason. And that's what this team just did. So quite frankly, the only thing that will get in their way of repeating is kind of the same BS baseball stuff that can happen. Injuries definitely happen.
But
Granted, the Dodgers just won the World Series while navigating a ton of injuries to that starting staff. And then, playoff baseball is a crapshoot. Like, we know the Dodgers were very close. As I mentioned, they were very close to being eliminated in the first round this past postseason, and they ended up winning it all. If you're a Padres fan, you're definitely throwing your hands up saying baseball's stupid and it's a crapshoot. If you're a Yankee fan, you're throwing your hands up saying baseball's stupid, playoffs, it's all a crapshoot.
and without Soto too, there's even more to be
Yes.
angry about.
Yeah, exactly. So I really think that, the Dodgers should at the very least get back to the World Series, because if you look at the rest of the National League, sure, the Mets added Soto, which I know it sounds weird to like say with a shrug, but the reality is the Mets overperformed like crazy last season. And their rotation kind of they got to the postseason and through the postseason with a rotation that was carried by guys who all came out of nowhere. Sean Manaea reinvented himself and became an excellent pitcher. Luis Severino rebounded in his career. Jose Quintana gave them strong starts. Like, they can't really rely on having that same sort of production from their rotation this season. Sure, yes, you've now added Juan Soto to the lineup, and that will definitely make a difference. But that lineup was kind of just top heavy as it was. There's still a lack of depth in that lineup. And then looking across the rest of the NL, the Padres got worse. They didn't really add to their team very much, and in fact have lost guys. And you've even had already talk of them moving Dylan Cease. Like, Dylan Cease might not finish the season with this team. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Padres take a big step back. I think that the Diamondbacks are going to rebound and have a strong season, but there's nobody in the NL that I think or in the Central,
Great.
excuse me, that's super terrifying. I think the Cubs will win the Central. I think they're going to be pretty good, but I don't see them as a huge threat. But yeah, as you mentioned, the Braves and the Phillies should still be there. The Braves should have a better season this year, assuming that Acuna comes back strong. But overall, I mean, it's hard to not pick the Dodgers again, because you have to actively ignore all of their elite strengths in order to do it. The only rationale that you can have picking against the Dodgers is, well, injuries happen. Outside of that, like, there's nothing you can say that proves that the Dodgers are demonstrably not the best team in baseball in every facet. So, yeah, it basically comes down to, if anybody is going to repeat anytime soon, it's going to be this Dodgers team, and you kind of just wait and see what happens, which is kind of a weird way to approach a season. But it's also great as a fan because we get to just sit back and watch. And if people start complaining about stuff, shut up. They're world champions. Like, well, they'll get through it. And yeah, things should be pretty fun again at the end of the season.
Right. No, you talk about just MLB fans complaining in general, and we have seen that happen so much over the past couple of years regarding, the whole cap salary and the house money thing that you're kind of talking about. The Dodgers have pretty much $1 billion in deferred money over the next decade. But at the same time, it's like, this team is built for October. Like, I am expecting this team to win multiple World Series. And in a weird way, it's like the expectations are so high that if we don't win, multiple rings in the next couple of years, like it was somehow, not, we didn't hit expectations. So it's just crazy. Like, I don't remember a team that has been built so well to have expectations of really win it all, or it was a waste of a year.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point, the fact that the Dodgers build everything from the ground up incredibly well. Like, people will always point to how much money they have spent the last couple off season. It's a gigantic amount of money. I'm not gonna like pretend like it's not. But they've been able to do that because for the better part of really the last decade plus, they've done an incredibly great job at investing in their scouting, investing in research, investing in development, and bringing up a ton of young talent that either breaks through and helps the major league club, or gives them pieces to trade for guys like Mookie Betts. Obviously Trey Turner, Max Scherzer didn't stick around, but they were able to go out and get those guys with the prospects that they got. Sure. And then being able to supplement the major league club with free agent signings. Because prior to Freddie Freeman signing, the biggest contract that Andrew Friedman had given out was to AJ Pollock. Like, it was, they weren't making gigantic splashes. There was then the Bauer signing, but of course that backfired miserably. Sure. And then they were able to invest in a guy like Freddie Freeman because of the fact that, again, they did let Corey Seager walk, which also like preserved a lot of money. Which obviously, Corey Seager's one of the best players in baseball and would love to still have him around. But the money that they saved not using on him, they used that for Freddie Freeman. And you can make an argument that was all part of their vision in terms of resetting the luxury tax prior to Ohtani hitting the market. So that way they can really go after Ohtani, which then now Shohei Ohtani set up his contract in a way where they can literally sign any person that they want for the remainder of time. And it's incredible. It's truly incredible. I understand people will point their fingers at the Dodgers and be like, this is not good for baseball in the way that they are loading their roster like crazy and monopolizing all the stars. But again, this goes back to the fact that they're able to do this because of the way that they've invested in scouting and research and development. And quite frankly, this is how every fan wants their team to be ran. Like, we all dream of the team that we root for to have an owner that can do both sign big ticket stars and develop guys from within strong, and marry these two things and create a powerhouse of a franchise. They have done nothing that is against the rules of baseball. I understand that deferrals will probably in the next CBA be mended a little bit, where you can't defer, 98% or whatever. But at the same time, deferrals have been around since forever, quite frankly. Ken Griffey Jr. was still getting paid by the Reds either last season or the season prior. I believe was his last season where he was still getting paid by the Reds. He was like their sixth highest paid player in the last couple of years. Deferrals are how the Nationals extended guys like Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg and Patrick Corbin. Like, teams have been doing deferrals for a very long time. It's just the way that Ohtani set up his contract has now made it kind of an offensive word to the rest of baseball fans. But it is also a brilliant setup because the Dodgers have now established a stronghold on the Japanese market. That money that they have invested in Shohei Ohtani, that they've kicked all down the road, they've practically already made it back. Like it's people, yes, 700 million is the total number, but because of the deferrals, it's really like 450 total. And by the time that Ohtani is not a Dodger anymore, a decade from now, they will be the Dodgers will be such a powerhouse in Japan alone that the amount of money that they're getting from the international markets is going to offset everything, like not just Ohtani's contract, literally everything. But overall, if you think about, or if you look at the issues with salaries and with payrolls in baseball, the truth is, and I don't want to sit here and point fingers, but the truth is that the big issue with payrolls in baseball really falls on the teams that are not spending, the teams that are at the bottom of the list in terms of total payrolls, because not to get fully into numbers, but the way that revenue is split throughout the league, the way revenue sharing works, basically there are some teams that pay heavily into revenue sharing like the Dodgers do, where they pay roughly $100 million a year to other teams, basically. And then you've got teams on the bottom that collect, 70, 80, 90, $100 million in just revenue sharing alone. This doesn't even take into account their local TV contracts and local advertising and ticket sales and all that. But yet, despite that, their payroll is less than just what the revenue sharing number is, which means you can make an argument that the Dodgers are not only paying their own team's salary, they're paying the Marlins' entire salary as well. and so then the Marlins are sitting there just taking the money in and not reinvesting it in the team. And this is the big issue. This is why there's still multiple free agents available that can make impacts on teams, and teams are not going out and getting them because it's more profitable for them to just sit back and lose and take the money from the revenue sharing. So if you want to say that baseball is broken, yeah, you're right. The Dodgers didn't break it. The Dodgers are using an incredibly smart business strategy that is completely within the confines of the rules. Yes, I'm not naive to know that not every team can do this. The Dodgers are a international brand, so there is much more security in their brand name moving forward, so they can kick more money down the road. I get that. But at the same time, any team could have done Ohtani's contract. Because if you're just paying him $20 million over the next 10 years, with the amount of publicity and the amount of investment that you will get from just Japan alone, you're going to make all that money back. And then you're blowing up your brand like crazy. In fact, every single team that spoke to him, he gave them that offer. Like the Blue Jays were about to do the same thing. He just chose the Dodgers in the end. So, yeah, not to go off on too big of a tangent there, but the point is the one thing that we keep hearing is that, oh, the Dodgers broke baseball. No, baseball was broken, and the Dodgers are just doing their thing. Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
well said. Well said, man. I think it's like being a Dodger fan, we are in a perfect position, and just like listening to people, argue and like say we broke baseball. Like I get it. And at the same time, it's like, it's hard to like watch players that, used to be on the Dodgers. You mentioned, Corey Seager, of course, winning MVP of the World Series. We have Cody Bellinger, who's now on the Yankees, even someone like Jock. Like it's hard to see them play to these different teams, but I think, the GM just played to perfection here. And like you talk about Shohei, and I'm glad you mentioned him because it had been like 15 minutes, but at the time you mentioned him, I was like, we have not talking about Shohei Ohtani yet. And that is just way too much time not to talk about this guy because, Shohei Ohtani, someone who has 3 MVPs already, still in his prime, made his whole own new caliber in the 50-50 conversation. What should we Dodger fans expect, pitching wise, and just is he going to take a step back, while he's pitching as well, or is this going to be another legendary season from Shohei Ohtani?
I hope we see the same sort of legendary season offensively. I have a feeling his offensive numbers will dip a little bit, just in the nature of not only is he taking the mound again, but he also, as you recall, dislocated that shoulder in the World Series, and so he did have to like have that repaired as well. Luckily, it's his left shoulder, so it's not his front shoulder on his swing.
Okay.
So, and it's not his pitching shoulder. But I think that because he's a superhuman, so like I think any normal person would still be rehabbing their injury, but he's not a normal athlete by any means. So he's powering through it. He's trying to be on track to be ready to pitch opening day, which is wild. Um, I would expect eh, maybe just 40-40, not not full
Oh,
50-50,
nothing
but
too
maybe
crazy.
just 40-40. Darn, real dip. But it will be interesting to see what he does on the mound, because I am a little nervous because of the fact that I think um if he has one more major pitching injury again, I think that's it. I think he'll be done pitching. Um and eventually he's going to have to stop, but if they get 2 to 3 years of him being like high end starter material as a pitcher, and then for the rest of his career being fully a DH, that's still wonderful. You'll take those couple seasons of him as a potential game one starter. But that's the thing with this rotation. Like he could be like a game four starter even.
Right.
Like I mean, Otani at his best is one of the best pitchers in baseball, of course. Um, but because there's so many strong pitchers on this staff, and if all of them are healthy come postseason time, you don't need to put that stress on Otani to pitch early in the series. That way, too, if you're looking at the big picture, if he's only throwing in like a game four or something, then he's only throwing once a series, and that's it's a luxury. Like if you don't need him to pitch twice in a 7 game
Right.
series, that's wonderful. Again, not because of his lack of ability, but just because of the fact that their staff is just so loaded that you wouldn't need to put that level of stress on him. I'm looking forward to it too this season, because they should be employing a 6 man staff, which I think is going to be super interesting to watch. It's also going to be really helpful for Roki Sasaki as
Right.
he adjusts to the major league game. In Japan, they throw once a week as opposed to every 5 days. So by stretching out the rotation like that, you're able to ease Sasaki into the major league game a little bit more. And Yamamoto will also still needs that. We forget that he's, I think, 26 now. If he has turned 26 yet. And he missed, half of his rookie season due to injury. So I think that putting less stress on him on a daily basis will also help. And Tyler Glasnow has never thrown like over 120 innings in a season, so he'll definitely benefit from having a longer rotation as well. And then whoever else they slot in, if it's Dustin May or Tony Gonsolin or both, they would also benefit because of the fact that they're coming back from injury.
Right.
So, and Blake Snell has not exactly been a bastion of health either. So I think that adding Otani to this rotation is just so perfect because it gives them the flexibility to lengthen the rotation well. That way you're maximizing the efficiency on Otani starts as well. So I would assume if you get 100 innings from Otani this season and a 40-40 season, he's got MVP locked up again already. Like it's just insane. I just don't see anybody else doing anything solely offensively that could really top what Otani's doing. And eventually people are going to hold it against him because, as we see in the NBA, like people get tired of voting for the same person for MVP, so they try to find reasons to vote for other people. The NFL just happened as well. But it's also really hard to not vote for Otani when he keeps doing what he's doing. So I expect he's probably going to be an MVP again because he's in the prime of his career and he's back on the mound. So it's Shohei Otani. You expect great things.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned the surgery he had this offseason, and then he comes spring training, hits a home run his first at bat. So, it's just like this guy is superhuman, like you mentioned, and I think we just got to hold him to a different expectation at this point.
Yeah.
Kind of on the same topic, I guess. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but this is kind of a fun question. I know it's been kind of going around the sports media world with the NFL draft and everything going up, and obviously me being out here in Colorado. So I would love to hear your thoughts on the Travis Hunter versus Shohei. What is harder to do? Is it harder to play both positions in the MLB or in the NFL?
Cowherd was talking about this today, and I agree with what his take was. Listen, nothing against Travis Hunter. He's a phenomenal athlete. he's going to be taken near the top, if not the very top of the NFL draft, and he deserves to be so. He's an incredible athlete, regardless of where you put him on the field. But it just doesn't compare. I think, as Cowherd mentioned, and I agree with it, it's more like what Ohtani's doing is more like a quarterback also playing linebacker, and doing both at an incredibly elite level. Because it is two very different positions. It's completely different muscles. And there's a reason why we don't ever see this in Major League Baseball, because the amount of training and preparation and study that you have to do to become a major league pitcher. There's a reason why like every pitcher who's ever lived, like 2% of them can actually hit, because when they're being developed as pitchers, they don't bother developing their hitting. They'll occasionally go into the cages to bunt, but outside of that, you can't really afford to train guys as two-way players, because the amount of effort that goes into training people as pitchers, it's just impossible to develop both of those skills at such a high level. I've never played football. I'm not going to pretend like I understand what goes into developing a two-way, receiver and defensive back. But I can't help with the untrained eye look at those two positions and see them being more similar than a pitcher and a hitter. I think that the things that Ohtani is doing is just so different. But again, I think the world of Travis Hunter. He's an incredible athlete. I personally would play him more so at cornerback, because I think it's just so hard to find guys who are elite at that position, and you can still throw him in on offense here and there with different special team plays, or just you could drop specific plays just to have him come in. Have him every snap on defense, have him some snaps on offense, just to not tire him out like crazy, because that I will say, what I think the most impressive thing about what Travis Hunter does is the fact that he's on the field every single play. Like, that is exhausting. Like, nobody's doing that. Right. They're only playing half the game. They get to sit down the other half. The fact that he's running endlessly up and down the field and doing it all at such a high level, that's super impressive. So I'm not trying to take away anything. So all you Colorado fans, listen, I applaud Travis Hunter. Okay, I'm not trying to, but it's Ohtani. I don't think it's very close.
No, these are like the most fun conversations to have, because at the end of the day, like, we're just gonna have to see if he's gonna be able to play both at the highest level. I mean, Shohei has done it. He's an multi MVP. So I think Travis is also a superhuman athlete. So I'm just excited to watch it play out. I guess to wrap it up, I did this with Jovan. I want to kind of do this with everyone I have on the show. Just I think I might have an understanding of it for you, just based on what happened last year. But give me your favorite moment covering the Dodgers and just witnessing everything happening and then being able to come back and kind of talk about it.
I mean, I'll it would be a cop-out to just talk about last year, so I'm not going to only talk about last year, but I am going to start off with last year. Yeah. I mean, watching Freddie Freeman's Grand Slam live was something I'm going to remember forever. Like, that was so damn live on television. I was not there in person, but getting to experience that, and then us doing a live podcast right after the Dodgers won the World Series.
Yeah.
It's some of the most fun I've ever had in anything in sports. What was so cool about it too is myself, Bo Benson, and Monty Bolaños. We all work at Fox Sports Radio, and we started the show. I had a couple drinks as it was, and then and they kept it going, kept it going through the show. But what we did is we were just like, all right, we're going to take our link here and just send it to all the Dodger fans we know. And whoever wants to jump on in here and celebrate with us, we're going to do it. And the response that we got was just incredible. We got some legends of Fox Sports Radio, guys like John Ramos and Ben Maller himself, like came on, and Jason Stewart and Roberto Flores. And what was so cool is the last person we had on was TJ Houshmandzadeh, which is, of course, Bengals' great wide receiver, TJ Houshmandzadeh, which blew my mind. I texted it to him, and I'm like, he's not going to. And then he jumped in the waiting room. I'm like, oh, my God. I feel bad for Patrick Sweeka. Patrick was on with us at the time. And Patrick, and I was like, all right, Patrick, I'm sorry. You gotta leave. You gotta go. We're going to bring TJ on. That was an absolute blast, and really covering the team the first time that I got to see them win the World Series in 2020. That was really cool because Bo and I started a podcast about the Dodgers at the start of 2020. We did a show called Swing Shift with Ryan and Bo, and we did that for 4 years, and then luckily we reached out to the Sick Podcast Network, and they brought us on last year, and we get to do that again this year, and it's a ton of fun. We did Swing Shift just Bo and I just messing around in one of the back studios of Fox Sports Radio. And the first show we did was like January 20 something of 2020. And then the second show we did was a month later, and we're like, okay, so everything sucks now. So because COVID was starting to come on, and then the third show we did was when they confirmed like the season was being shut down. Sports were being shut down in general, and that was just a lot of Bo and I being like, "What the hell? This is insane. What are we living through?" And also we picked an awesome time to start doing this. Like we had said for years we wanted to do a podcast on the Dodgers, and it figured the second that we started doing it, a global pandemic hit. But that was so fascinating to cover that season and to have it end the way that it did. People try to discredit 2020 because it was a different season, and it was. I understand that. But in many ways, winning that title was harder than a normal World Series. There were more teams in the postseason. You had a crapshoot 3-game series to start, and then you had the championship series with 7 straight days, no days off. You're playing at a neutral site with no fans. There's no real home field advantage for anyone. It was very difficult for the Dodgers to navigate, and the fact that they came out of that winning, it deserved to be celebrated. I still very much value that championship. I still absolutely recognize it as real and legitimate. But winning in 2024, it was nice to finally feel like all the people who didn't recognize it were going to shut up now. Like that was kind of a closure that we collectively as a fan base needed. So, I think overall, favorite moment is still what we got to witness in 2024. That was truly incredible.
Yeah, no, that's going to be hard to beat for the rest of our lives, really, and just all of MLB history. I mean, that was amazing. It's funny you mentioned like the 2020 COVID year, because that's exactly what happened with the Lakers too. And like people that just love to hate on LA sports, it's perfect for them. But at the same time, like Dodgers were able to win it last year. Could be the Lakers year. Who knows? All I know is it is so much fun to be covering LA sports right now. And I appreciate you so much for hopping on. It was great to reconnect.